covering a few million kilometers during its development stages in the Nordic winters and Arabian hot climates. The original project was launched in 1983, dubbed the F1. It actually stands for Flagship Number 1 and was worked on by thousands of people. Close to 900 experimental engines appeared in the project, and now the engine is known for its durability, reliability, and several hundreds of thousand miles without overhauls. This was the beginning of the UZ series, one of the few such over-engineered V8 engines a man has ever created. The design was closer to a race-spec engine rather than a normal road car power plant. The block was made of aluminium, reinforced for the maximum possible strength. The forged steel crankshaft, equipped with 8 balancing weights, was secured by 5 main bearing gaps, held by 6 bolts each, 2 from sides, 4 from the bottom, a rare solution for a road-legal engine. Inside the block, high-protective pistons were merged to lightweight forged connecting rods via induction-hardened piston pins placed in cast iron sleeves. With cylinder dimensions of 87.5 by 82.5 mm, it was an over-squared engine. The 1UZ FE is known for its impressive quietness and smoothness, achieved also thanks to liquid-filled motor mounts. The aluminium top of the engine was not as fancy and race-like. It did feature dual cams to operate 32 valves in total, not so common in 1989. The intake cams were belt-driven, which then turned exhaust cams via gears in the middle. There are no hydraulic lifters, hence a periodic adjustment of the valves is required. This version before the VVTi implementation was a non-interference engine. The power output was later raised to 265 horsepower with a 10.4:1 compression ratio since 1995, alongside lighter con rods and new pistons. Fuel injectors were also more capable, from 220 to 251 cc per minute. The engine power crossed the 300 horsepower mark in the GS400 when the variable valve timing system, as well as the new variable intake length system which improved low and mid-range RPM torque, were added in 1997. A drive-by-wire throttle and a 10.5:1 compression ratio came along too. The 1UZ only takes about 5 liters of oil and weighs 195 kilograms. It was so good that they even tried racing with it in a Le Mans with twin turbo inside an SV20 platform. It found its way into Toyota boats and also as an aircraft engine approved by FAA. The 2UZ accommodates a cast iron block with wider cylinders of 94 mm. The crankshaft is also different, adding a bit more stroke, with a 5300 RPM redline. It also has a lower compression ratio with less oomph than the 1UZ. The 5 main bearing setup was carried over, however, there are now 2 bolts, not 6. Importance was placed into gaining more torque. But interestingly, it was still an over-squared engine, unusual for such a unit. There were forged aluminum pistons, connecting rods were sintered, and since 2005, the VVTi system was installed, adding 40 to 50 horsepower. Later in 2007, pistons were reshaped and oil squirters were installed. Another difference is the ignition, as the 1UZ does use twin distributors, whereas the 2UZ has got a coil-on-plug setup. Early versions had a long-runner aluminum intake and a cable-operated throttle body. The heads were similar to the 1UZ, except for the lower compression ratio. Although it is not as sturdy internals-wise, equipped with a bolt-on supercharger, 350 horsepower figures are real. The 3UZ was basically a successor of the 4-liter. Lexstream found out that both blocks are identical. The difference is the thickness between the cylinder sleeves. Sleeves are of the same thickness, but for high outputs, the 1UZ seems a better choice. However, 3UZ heads flow better, have larger valves, and guess what? They are interchangeable, so there is a possibility to build a hybrid engine from the two. The 3UZ had all the new tech, like the VVTi or drive-by-wire system, but everything on the bottom end was lighter, here weaker than the 1UZ. The 3UZ block is fine for sub 600 horsepower builds. Amongst tuners, the 1UZ is a well-known motor. Its over-engined bottom end provides endless possibilities right away from the factory, especially before the VVTi, with thicker conrods and a lower compression ratio. A thicker head gasket with firings will raise the potential even higher. With as little as 0.4 bar, 330 horsepower is achievable and the bottom end should hold up to 700 horsepower. That's the beauty of the early models of the 1UZ FE. The 2UZ and 3UZ are not as durable for thinner connecting rods, and the VVTi variants are not as suitable either. According to Lexstream, the 1UZ conrods should fit no problem on the 3UZ. Having 8% more weight, it could be an interesting upgrade. The 1UZ internals are the best amongst these from the factory, but the 2UZ block should naturally be a tiny bit stronger. If the 1UZ is capable of 700 plus horsepower on the stock block, 4 figures are achievable on the 2UZ easily. There is a racing team called Duron Racing, which made a Daytona prototype with a 500 horsepower 3UZ build, revving all the way up to 8200 RPM. The whole UZ series is a good engine, with no major issues, no leaks, no design errors. With good care, 500,000 kilometers should be no problem for the V8, and there are reports of million-mile LS400s.